Hi, I'm Luke Chao from the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis in Toronto, Canada. In this video, I'm going to talk a bit about some of the most common misconceptions that people have about hypnosis. Many people's first exposure to hypnosis comes from movies or television shows or Saturday morning cartoon shows, where, of course, for dramatic effect, they over-dramatize what hypnotists can do and what the experience of hypnosis is like. But just like movie doctors are not like real doctors and television lawyers are not like real lawyers, hypnotists depicted in entertainment are not real hypnotists. In this video, I'm going to cover the most common misconceptions that people have about hypnosis. The first misconception that people have about hypnosis is that people have to be gullible or weak-willed or unintelligent to be hypnotized. And that comes from the idea that being hypnotized somehow means that you've been tricked or deceived, or that hypnotists get you to believe ideas that are not real or not true. In all the work I do, I want people to believe things that are true, but that they just happen to have neglected or not thought about or didn't know before. For example, when I work with smokers, just to pick an example, everybody believes that all the horrible things that happen to other smokers are unlikely to happen to them, or at least they act as though they have that belief. And with hypnosis, I get them to see and feel and imagine and identify very clearly with the facts that we all know about smoking. It's true that on stage hypnotists will get people to take on ideas like that they are a dog or that they're a celebrity, but nobody ever leaves the stage believing that they're a dog or a celebrity. That kind of work is just meant for flash in the moment during the show. In the work that I do, I don't care as much about the client's experience when they're in the office. What matters more to me is how they're feeling and how they've taken to the suggestions weeks or months or years after their session or sessions are over. And the only way that suggestions last is if the suggestions are validated by reality as opposed to invalidated by reality. So all the work I do, in fact, gets people closer to reality, which means that the idea that people have to be gullible or fooled or easily deceived to be hypnotized is so far off the mark that it speaks to a misunderstanding of what hypnosis is and how it works and what we actually do with clients. Another common concern is that the hypnotist you've hired is somehow going to make you do things or say things or accept things against your will, or to do or say or accept things that you don't want to. That's not just a violation of professional ethics, it's also practically very difficult. Part of the art of hypnotherapy is for the hypnotherapist to be saying things and consistently that resonate with the client so that the client stays in a deep, workable level of hypnosis. If the hypnotist starts saying things that are off the mark or that are not relevant to the reasons why the client is there or that stretch the imagination too much, then the client's conscious defenses typically come back online, and then anything else the hypnotist says is not going to resonate. In a battle of wills between the client and the hypnotist, the client will always win. You are the only person in control of your thoughts, your actions, your speech, and everything else about you. There's nobody else more in control of you than you. Even if another person knows how to use hypnosis, even if they're good at it, they cannot make you completely suggestible. They can make you more suggestible if they say things that resonate with you and that are relevant to why you've asked to be hypnotized. Those things can sink in more deeply during hypnosis than a normal waking state. But hypnosis cannot make you do things against your will. The hypnotist's role is to guide the client's thoughts and imagination in the direction that the client has asked for. The client's role is then to follow. If the hypnotist is leading the client in directions other than what the client has asked for, it's not just unethical, it's likely to be noticed by the client, and the client is likely to fire their hypnotist. One other misconception that people have about being in hypnosis is that it is somehow possible to get stuck in hypnosis, that it's possible to enter the state and then not be able to come back out again. And the idea is just as implausible as somehow getting stuck in a daydream, or somehow falling asleep and then being asleep forever. On the surface, It makes a good plot for a story, but it just doesn't happen. The same way that people can snap out of a daydream, the same way that people will wake up from a nap, people will also emerge from hypnosis. As an interesting aside, there was a case in Quebec just a few years back where it was reported in the mainstream media that high school students or middle school students, I forget which, had volunteered for a stage hypnosis show and then got stuck, and the hypnotist had to bring in his mentor. And as to what happened there, only the people who volunteered and the people who were there, they're the only ones to know for sure. But my best guess is the volunteers didn't want to come out. It's not that they got stuck in hypnosis. It's not that they couldn't emerge from hypnosis. It's just that because of the attention, because of the relaxation, because of the novelty, or just as a prank, they decided they wouldn't come out of hypnosis. At any point, if the students chose to come out of hypnosis, they would have come out easily and just as naturally as anybody else. One common misconception about hypnotists in the general public is that we are like witch doctors or we're like voodoo priests, and that we're doing some kind of supernatural black magic. And nothing could be further from the truth. Hypnotherapists and hypnotists study how to use language to affect other people. It affects people because we human beings think with language. If we have better thoughts about ourselves, about our health, about the future, about the world, about the people around us, if we have better thoughts, our lives will be better. There's nothing supernatural about that at all. We are, in essence, teaching people how to think and then guiding them into better thinking processes through hypnotherapy. Another very common misconception about hypnosis is that somebody in hypnosis is actually asleep or unconscious. And I think it comes from hypnotists' use of the word unconscious to refer to the unconscious mind. Instead, somebody in hypnosis will have their attention focused inward, which means they aren't as attentive to the outside world, yet they are awake. They are able to hear what's being said. They're able to respond to what is being asked. They're able to accept or reject any suggestion. It just is they're not thinking as logically or analytically or rationally as they usually do. If there's any part of the mind that is suspended, it is the logical mind or the analytical mind, but that makes it easier for the client to feel and to imagine and to accept and to believe. And those qualities define hypnosis much better than the idea that one is asleep. In fact, if I believe that a client I'm hypnotizing is asleep, I will ask 3 times, if you're still following, please lift a finger to let me know. If the finger stays down, I wake them up and put them back into hypnosis. Because if the finger stays down, it means they've actually fallen asleep and they've stopped responding to what I'm asking. Someone who isn't responding to a suggestion that a finger goes up is also not responding to my suggestions that they'll overcome their fears or that they'll overcome their habits. So that's why someone who actually falls asleep has to be woken up and brought back into hypnosis. Hypnosis is more a half awake, half asleep state than it is a state of fully being asleep. One other misconception that people have about hypnosis is that hypnosis is like a shortcut to enlightenment, that somehow when you're in hypnosis, your concentration becomes perfect, or that your attention becomes perfect, or that you have no other thoughts inside your head. And that's not the case. Hypnosis does tend to relax people, which means that people in hypnosis find it easier to concentrate and easier to focus, and it's easier to keep a more silent mind. But even monks who've practiced meditation for years still need to keep practicing to develop more of a quiet mind and more concentration and focus. You can't expect a quick hypnotic induction to get you into the same state, or even a long hypnotic induction to get you into the same state, but you can reasonably expect to have more of a quiet mind and more concentration during a session. Until next time, it's Luke Chao from the Morpheus Clinic for Hypnosis in Toronto, Canada. We make hypnosis make sense.